Two of the best motorcycle racers in the world. Brave, fearless riders with something to prove. Two very fast motorcycles. One a Yamaha, the other a Ducati. Each capable of speeds in excess of 170 miles per hour. One intimidating racetrack. A championship caliber test of courage and speed. It's the site of one lap championship race. Two riders in a one-on-one battle to crown the king of AMA Superbike racing. From Road Atlanta, it's next on Cycle World. Welcome to the season finale in AMA Superbike road racing. After 9 races and nearly 1,000 miles of competition, the championship will be decided in a classic showdown. 2 riders, the veteran and the kid, a past American champ and last year's Australian title holder. They'll square off in a one-race winner-take-all shootout. It's Jamie James versus Troy Corser, the featured attraction this week on Cycle World. But before we get to that, let's take a quick look at what's happening around the rest of the racing world. Scott Russell's hopes to repeat as World Superbike champ suffered a huge blow Sunday at Italy's Mugello circuit. Russell won the first leg over championship point leader Carl Fogarty and was racing for the lead in the second leg, but 3 laps from the end, Russell's ignition went south. Fogarty won and holds a commanding point lead. Meanwhile, world champ Nick Doohan won the Argentine GP over Doug Chandler and John Kosinski. Tadayuki Okada won in the 250 and trails Max Biaggi by just 8 points going into the finale. Now to the Road Atlanta story. Jamie James and Troy Corser aren't the only riders on a mission at Road Atlanta. Most of the top riders are at the end of their existing contracts, and nothing smooths the negotiations for next year like a win in the season finale. But the championship is the big prize, so the spotlight shines brightest on the 2 title contenders, Jamie James and Troy Corser. Let's review how Troy Corser and Jamie James arrived at this 2-man moment of truth. Australian champion Troy Corser came to the States, the hand-picked successor to departing champ Doug Poland. Now, early in the year, it looked like 1993 all over again. Corser's 94 Ducati was every bit as fast as the one with which Poland won 6 of 10 races in 93. The wonder from down under won 3 of the first 6 in 94. But at mid-season, Corser's hopes for a runaway title went off the rails. Troy blew up or fell down in 2 of his next 3 outings. His once commanding points lead, a championship points lead, began to erode and crumble. Enter Jamie James, the 1989 Series champ, on the backside of a great career. A guy contemplating a stock car future, but determined to win one more motorcycle crown. A consistent top 3 finisher, number 2, James capitalized on Corser's troubles, close to within inches of the series lead, then had a problem of his own. Passing the race leader at a waving yellow flag earned Jamie a 1-lap penalty at Road America, and with 2 races left, it looked like the title was out of reach. Well, looks can be deceiving. Last time out, Corser suffered the misfortune of a lifetime. A cracked frame put him on the ground, crashed out of the point lead. And that threw the title up for grabs as the AMA Superbike title contenders come to Road Atlanta for the championship showdown. 3 points separate James and Corser. 3 points. Nothing else matters in this winner-take-all shootout.
Me to race Jamie, and that's basically all I got to beat. Beat Jamie and be a couple of places in front of him, and I hope I can do that. Basically, I have to beat Troy no matter what, so that's what I'll be out trying to do. And hopefully, if I can win the race, that would be nice, too. That's no different than any other race. I'll be going into it to just do the best I can. I've been trying hard all year, and I'll just put forth a real good effort and see what happens.
Well, those are the title contenders. We'll go next to Cycle World's expert analyst, Jim Allen, and I'm sure that Jim's all set to tell us in advance which of these guys will win the big prize.
No way, Larry. No way am I going to climb out on that limb. Instead, what I'd like to do is concentrate on a guy that I think could be a spoiler this weekend. Georgia native Scott Russell, reigning World Superbike champion and king of this series 2 years ago, returns to Road Atlanta, a racetrack that he loves. Now, because of the point situation, which we'll look at in a moment, a Russell win this weekend could be a huge factor in deciding the championship between Corser and James. So I thought, let's talk to Scott, see if he's got a favorite for the title.
Well, there's no question I'd rather see an American win it than an Australian. Jamie James, you know, is my favorite. He's a good friend of mine. We've been racing together for years, and we're just really good buddies, you know. And, you know, Jamie needs this win this title. It'd do him a lot of good, I think, his confidence.
This much is for sure, Larry. Russell's presence here at Road Atlanta surely contributed to the most exciting pole qualifying session of the entire race season.
First of all, me or Scott or Jamie have to jump up and get the pole, take that point away from Corser.
The pole position goes to the rider who turned in the fastest lap in 2 days of time qualifying. For his efforts, the rider that earns the pole is awarded a single championship point. Early in the first time qualifying session, visiting World Superbike champ Scott Russell gave the field something to shoot at with a new track record. With rain in the forecast, the crews and riders alike knew there might not be a second chance, so they all went for broke. Corser suffered the consequences with a high-speed crash that destroyed his Ducati. Corser walked away unhurt, but his hopes for the pole and the point were severely dashed. Late in the session, Colin Edwards turned the fastest time of the day. If his time held up, the point was his. Let's see if I can explain in simple terms how important a single point is. James leads Corser by 3 points going into the race. The difference between a first and a second place finish is also 3 points. And if there's a tie, Corser takes the title because he has more race victories. That means that if James and Corser are racing for the lead, Jamie has to beat Troy in order to take the title. But from second on back, the difference between finish positions is 2 points or less. So if someone other than James and Corser wins, Jamie can follow Troy and still win the championship. That's a huge strategic advantage. So you can see just how important that qualifying point was. In the second session, no one got close to Colin Edwards. The single pole position point would not affect his teammates' championship hopes.
I'm in this race to help Jamie get the championship. And, you know, whatever it takes to get him the championship, that's what I'm going to do. You know, I'm out here to win it, but, you know, if the case is I have to get behind him or whatever for him to win it, then I'll do it.
Not everyone was on the side of Jamie James. Consider Australian Scott Doohan. With him was brother Mick, the 500cc Grand Prix champ who was pulling for Troy.
Yeah, sure, it'd be good if he could win the championship out here, but, you know, I'm also sure there's a lot of American people who would like to see an American win the championship, but, you know, it's going to be a close race between him and the other guy on Sunday, and you know, I personally would like to see an American finish second to him, so we'll just see what happens.
Well, whatever happens, Mick, congratulations on your recently acquired Grand Prix crown. Stay with us, and Mick Doohan will be back. Fun Honda, come ride with us. By your local Yamaha dealer who invites you to see their exciting line of motorcycles, ATVs, and snowmobiles. By Kawasaki. Kawasaki, let the good times roll. By Dunlop, simply the best for your bike. And by Cycle World, your leading motorcycle magazine. Welcome back to Road Atlanta, where 38 of the fastest riders in the world are set to do battle in the season finale of the AMA Superbike Series. After 9 rounds of racing, it boils down to this: 25 laps of what is sure to be intense competition to decide the title. Before we get to it, let's take a look at the battleground. Jim Allen has joined me. Jim, how about this Road Atlanta track?
Larry, Road Atlanta is absolutely a rider's track. There's 2 significant sections: the S's immediately following the start-finish straightaway, and the highlighted section, the back straightaway. It's not really straight, but it is wide open. We're going to have a chance to look at it here from our onboard camera. Here we are exiting turn 7. This is the slow hairpin at the far end of the track. It's important to keep to the left-hand side over here and just let your front wheel float over top of this wheelie hill. The next obstacle the rider has to deal with is this getting over to the left-hand side of the racetrack here, prepare himself to drop down into what we call gravity cavity. Absolutely the fastest part of the racetrack here. Very hard right-hand, left-hand section. Over to the right now, fight the bike. Over to the left. You got to go way over to the left to deal with his next blind right-hand section here. You put the brakes on, turn hard to the right before you ever see any of this corner coming up, leading now to the start-finish line here.
Thank you, Jim. The riders are just about set to head out for their warm-up lap. We'll set the stage. You know, we've talked about the battle between Corser and James for the title. You know, we've not mentioned Takahiro Soa. Check out the points. If James and Corser both have problems, Soa could win. He's only 18 points down, so there's a lot of room for the Muzzy Kawasaki team rider. Here's the grid. Colin Edwards has won the last 3 races. He's on the pole at Road Atlanta. Next to him, World Superbike champ Scott Russell. Russell has ridden 1 race this year, Daytona. He won that in impressive style. Next is Corser's teammate Pascal Picat. He's looking for his 3rd win of the season, but the championship comes first.
He got to do his job, and I will do mine. And for sure, if I can help him for the championship at the end, of course I will do some, you know, like a team order. If we need, we're going to have one for sure.
Rounding out the front row, Dave Sadowski, also on a Ducati. The Georgia rider could be a spoiler today.
The championship's on the line, but David Sadowski's career is on the line as well, and my finishing result here is going to determine how I head into the silly season in the wintertime. And if I end up spoiling one of my friend's chances at a championship, that's going to be rough.
Here's the battle for the championship. Jamie James has the inside pole on the 2nd row. The title should go to him or the rider next to him, Australian Troy Corser. In the win department, Corser is ahead of James 3-zip. Points department, James is up by 3. Another potential winner, Miguel Duhamel. Last 3 outings, Miguel's Harley has been strong. Rounding out 2nd row, 1991 Superbike champ Suzuki's Thomas Stevens. Here's row 3. Mike Smith from Georgia could be a factor here today. And there's the 3rd title contender, Tiger Soa. We'll go back through the grid. You check him out while I ask Jim Allen to shed just a little light on Dave Sadowski's reference to the silly season and spoiling a friend's title chance.
Well, Larry, the silly season is exactly what it sounds like. People are concerned with getting themselves lined up for next year. The phones are ringing, the rumors are circulating. But basically, I think what Dave was getting at is that he has loyalties here to 2 camps. He and Jamie go back an awful long way. On the other hand, the bike that he's riding is supplied by Troy Corser's team, staffed by Faraci. So Dave could be in a position here to hurt or help either one or both of these guys.
I'll read into his comment what you will, but I assure you of this. If Dave Sadowski has a chance as this one gets underway to win this race, you're going to see him go for the checkered flag all the way. Mike Smith got a great start from the 3rd row. Leading is Pascal Picat, and coming off the 2nd row was Jamie James. A couple of riders that were up there with Picat, Colin Edwards and Dave Sadowski, and if you will, Scott Russell. They just and look, here comes one of the riders taking a shortcut. I think that was Brad Hazen. He just kind of cut that corner right off. What I was trying to say, Jim, was those riders off the front row, with the exception of Picat, did not get a particularly good start.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I'm sure they're not happy about it, but there is a long, long way to go in this race, and they're just simply positioning at this point, Larry.
Here comes Mike Smith. We mentioned his great start from the 3rd row. He goes to the inside of Pascal Picat, and he takes over the number 1 position. Mike Smith is on a mission. He has not won this year, and in front of his hometown crowd, if you will. He's a Georgia native. I think that the uppermost thing in his mind is securing a position for next year, and that means a win here in Georgia to get that job done. Pascal Picat, meanwhile, uses the horsepower of the Ducati to get back in that number 1 slot. Here we are aboard the motorcycle that is being ridden by Dave Sadowski, and this is the section of the racetrack that Pascal Picat says, you go down, you come up, you go down again, and it says it makes my stomach jump up and down and flip-flop. I think probably, Jim, that's a very apt description. Taking a look at the leaderboard, and it looks like we're going to have another change. And it is Mike Smith laid on the brakes, takes over the number 1 position. Here comes Scott Russell. He's making his presence felt. And we'll go back and take another look at the start, this time from the seat of Sadowski's motorcycle. And he's getting zapped.
David is getting zapped here, Larry. We got, Miguel Duhamel, Mike Smith, Pascal Picat, the whole, you name it. They're all in front of him going up the hill here. I'm sure he didn't want this start to the race.
Okay, now coming up is that section where Brad Hazen took the shortcut. He's back in the pack away, so we're going to see that too. Look at him. Now that could have been a real problem. He could have burst out in the middle of that traffic, and wow, there could have been riders all over the racetrack.
Yeah, that was a dangerous item there, Larry, and he did some great motocrossing there.
Back to the race. Smith, Picat, Sadowski, Russell, Duhamel, Colin Edwards in that order. Jamie James is in 7th. Right behind is Troy Corser. Now that's not where Corser needs to be.
That's a fair comment, Larry. They both want to be farther up front, but certainly Corser wants to be ahead of Jamie. That's pretty obvious.
Well, I think if Jamie, he can finish 10th as long as Corser finishes 9th. So Jamie is where he needs to be. Right now he's racing Troy Corser for the championship, and that's what it's all about, and we'll be right back.
If you want your stomach to look...
Welcome back to Road Atlanta. This happened while we were away. Watch Scott Russell cut to the inside. Now watch what happens here. Russell is going to cut across the front of Sadowski. He moves into the number 2 position. That could have been a tragedy, I want to tell you, but both riders were alert, great reflexes, and missed each other. Everything's okay. Now, this also happened while we were away. Scott Russell took over the number 1 position from Pascal Picat. Now, we're going back to that first incident from Sadowski's camera. Watch this. Look at Russell cut across the front. These guys are riding right on the edge, Jim Allen.
The most important, the most incredible thing that happened there, Larry, that I saw was that both Pascal Picat and Scott Russell passed
Mike Smith in the same corner at the same time. Mike Smith is no slouch at Road Atlanta.
We wondered when Scott Russell would light a fire and take off. Look at that. He just waved at someone. This is back to race action. He just waved. I don't know, was he saying goodbye to the rest of the field, or was he waving to a friend along the fence? In any event, Russell now holds the number 1 position. He is starting already to pull away from the pack. No surprise here.
Well, Scott Russell is a world Superbike champ, and not for no reason at all, Larry. He's an incredible rider. Road Atlanta is a racetrack that he loved, we mentioned earlier. He's going to, I think he's got a mission today that he's on.
Back to race action. It's Russell out front, then Pascal Picat, Colin Edwards. And here is the battle for the championship. Rider number 2, Jamie James, and number 19, if you can pick him out, Troy Corser. Those 2 riders have swapped that position back there, 6th, 7th, 8th place. And they've swapped a couple of times. And I think that right now everything is working in Jamie James' favor. Troy Corser has to work closer to the front in order to be a contender for the championship. Miguel Duhamel just reached over with his left hand and grabbed something on the right side of the bike.
Yeah, I think he's probably adjusting his brake. I think they do have an adjustment for the front brake there, Larry, and he was probably not happy with the state of affairs, and he was fixing it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be happy taking my hand off a handlebar at that rate of speed. Sadowski's still a factor in this. Mike Smith has fallen back slightly, but the front running positions, I think, are still feeling each other out, getting comfortable with the racetrack.
Yeah, one other thing to point out here, Larry, too, is that Colin Edwards outqualified Scott Russell, and he would very much like to beat him today. That's his mission, I think.
I think you're right. I talked with him earlier, and I wondered how hard it would be to give up the chance of winning his 4th consecutive race if it became necessary for him to drop back and help Jamie James.
My race scenario is me and Russell and Corser and Jamie are going to be going at it. You know, hopefully it'll be me, Russell, and then Corser and Jamie, or Jamie and Corser, or Jamie behind me, whatever. But you know, if it worked out like that, Jamie would still end up with the championship, and that's what I'm hoping.
Remarkable young man. I wonder, you know, in the early season when we were talking about Colin Edwards and our expectations, him not living up to them, maybe our expectations were too high. He's only a 2nd-year rider.
Yeah, that's a fair comment again, Larry. You can count literally on your fingers and toes the number of Superbike races that Colin Edwards has engaged in. It's probably not more than 20 races, so not even 2 full seasons at this point. So I think that's a fair comment.
Pascal Picat a moment ago looked over his shoulder. I think he was looking to see where Corser might be in relation to this championship drive. And Corser has now moved up to the number 5 position. James is back in 7th. And if the race were to end right now, he would win the title. But it's not going to end now. We got a lot more to come. Stay with us. Welcome back to Road Atlanta. Scott Russell continues to dominate this race. Colin Edwards continues to try to catch him. I think that the statement you made earlier, Jim, Colin wants desperately to beat Scott Russell, was an accurate one. Dave Sadowski running 3rd. Pascal Picat is 4th. Troy Corser has moved to the number 5 position, and running 6th is Jamie James. He got around Mike Smith, so the race for the championship is still on. We're aboard the motorcycle of Dave Sadowski, checking this racetrack out, and I wonder, Picat dropping back as far as he did, is that an indication maybe that he's set to help his teammate Troy Corser in this championship drive?
I think, Larry, that he'll do anything he can to help Troy, just as Colin would help Jamie, but it's maybe a little early to be thinking in that direction now because there's a long, long way to go here, but that's a good possibility. Certainly he's prepared to do his part.
Scott Russell, Colin Edwards, Dave Sadowski, and Troy Corser has moved around. Pascal Picat has taken now control of the number 4 position. That drops James back to 6th. And that's not going to be good enough. Jamie James needs to move himself up again in order to be in the championship chase. He needs to be right behind Troy Corser if Corser's going to be up there inside the top four. Scott Russell continues to run away with this thing. And look at this. There are 3 riders abreast at some points on this racetrack. That is just unbelievable racing.
This really is great racing here, Larry. These guys are, I mean, we got all kinds of conflicts going on here. We got guys trying to win the race. We got guys trying to win the championship. We got a lot of going on here.
Yeah, and it might not be fair to say that Picard dropped back, because I want to tell you what, Corser has actually moved up now and has gained on the leaders. There's Sadowski in the number 3 position. Look at the freight train behind him. This is just fantastic out-and-out racing. Now, we've talked to Corser, we've talked to Edwards about the team tactics. Let's hear from Picard one more time.
If I can help him, not only Troy, but especially Geraldo, you know, because I'm in a part of the team, you know, we are teammate, me and Troy, and if I can do something, I will.
All right, now Troy is doing it all on his own. He has passed Sadowski. He's moved to the number 3 position. That drops Sadowski back to 4th. Picard is running 5th. He's ahead of Jamie James, who is in 6th. Troy Corser is controlling the tempo of the championship drive, just as Scott Russell is controlling the tempo of the race.
Yeah, I think Troy's got his eye on the front. That's what he mentioned earlier, Larry, that he has to try to just win this thing if he can. It looks, it's going to be difficult right now, but I think that he's definitely got his eyes on the front of the race.
He doesn't. Jamie James is not off the pace. I don't mean to imply that James is out of this championship, because he's still watching what is happening in front of him. He still has his eye on the rear wheel, on the back end of Troy Corser. He knows what he has to do. He knows where Corser is, knows where he has to go to get there. So the championship drive is still very much alive. What is not alive right now is that battle for the number 1 position. Russell is dominating this race.
Yeah, I think Scott has definitely shown us why he's a World Superbike champion at the moment. It appears that he's going to get away from Colin Edwards today. I'm not sure that Colin's happy about that, but it certainly looks like Russell's on his way.
Here's the view from Dave Sadowski's motorcycle, and there is Pascal Picard making the pass on Sadowski. So Picard moves up now to 4th place, dropping Sadowski back to 5th. So Sadowski not going the direction that he wants to go in by any means, but Jamie James still holding on to 7th, and the leader still in view.
Yeah, the view he has at the moment, Larry, is of 3 Ducatis. 2 of whom are probably dedicated to beating them. One of whom may have questionable loyalties.
I think that's a very good thing to point out. Right now, they're actually controlling the tempo of the championship. No 2 ways about it. Colin Edwards is chasing Scott Russell, and I don't know what Colin could do if he were to drop back. It's all up to Jamie right now. He's going to have to pass some of those Ducatis. We'll find out if he can get that job done when we come back. Stay with us at Road Atlanta. Prime coverage of Cycle World is brought to you by EBC Brakes. No one stops you faster. Welcome back on Cycle World. We're at Road Atlanta. It's the season finale of the AMA Superbike Series. Scott Russell is way out front. Running into number 2 position is Colin Edwards. And running in 3rd at the present time is Troy Corser. This is some kind of championship chase, as there are only 3 points separating the top 2 guys. That would be Jamie James and Troy Corser. And Jamie James needs to be a little bit closer to Corser in order to win this title. Look at the race action. We have seen this all day long. A lap rider that Colin Edwards has just swept by Jeff Reeves. And Jim, Colin Edwards has dropped back now off the pace that he earlier was running.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Colin dropped back or whether the guys have caught up to him, but the pace is definitely getting a little more frenetic in this group behind Scott here, and this is incredible racing, Larry.
Yeah, we had about a 2 or 3 bike battle going on at any time on the racetrack, and now we've got, it seems like 4 or 5 of them bunched together as they go through the corners. Now again, Scott Russell is way out front of this pack. This is a battle for 2nd place, and Troy Corser makes the pass. He moves to the number 2 position, and James is way off the pace right now, way off the pace that he needs to be.
There goes Colin Edwards back in. No,
I don't think so. Good try, Colin.
Good try. I thought he was going to make that pass. Colin Edwards coming right back to hammer on Corser. As I started to say, James is back off the pace being set by this group of 4 riders. There's James just coming into view, and therein lies the championship chase. James has to get closer to the front.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Larry. And all is not lost by any means at this point. He's certainly no more than a second or 2 behind, but he does have to get up there and do his part. These other guys are doing their work for him.
Well, earlier in the ball game, we had Troy Corser running back there with James, and we said at the time that Corser needed to go to the front. He did that. Now it's James' turn to step up the plate. He has not exhibited at any time during this race the ability to do that. He's just been hovering in the background.
So the question is he comfortable? Is he saving tires? Is he saving his body? Saving brakes? Is he ready to move into the last half of this race and be a factor?
Or are they just flat out riding him today?
Well, you know, we said this before this year, but Jamie has a big heart. He's awful strong. He's not giving up. I can guarantee you that. I'm not sure what he's up to, but he is not going to give up.
He went wide on that last corner, ran off into the
Curbing, so whether or not he's just riding a little tense, a little nervous, if he has something left, it remains to be seen.
We're nearing the halfway mark in this race, and Jim,
I don't believe that we have begun to see the drama that's going to unfold as Colin Edwards moves back to the number 2 position.
Now, we told you that Scott Russell is way out front, holding a huge lead. Earlier had an opportunity to talk to Russell, and as we see the halfway marks, my question to him was, Scott, why are you here? What is your game plan?
If there's any way I can help him win the championship, I'd like to do it, but the real reason I'm here is to win the race. And hopefully, if I can do that, then that'll be what he needs to help him win it or whatever.
I'll interpret that for you.
What it means is if he wins the race, he's going to take first place points away from Troy Corser for sure.
And the difference between first and second is 3 points. So that could be significant before this race is over.
And Colin Edwards certainly doing his part by holding down the number 2 position
and taking those points away. Here's the gap between first and second. Colin Edwards was a little bit closer to Scott Russell. He has dropped back. In fact, at one point was running third.
Now back up to the number 2 position.
Larry, look at Colin Edwards. That was the first mistake we've seen from Colin in 4 races now, but it looked to me like he locked the back wheel up going into that number 7 hairpin, and these other 3 guys have gone by, and he's now immediately in front of Jamie.
Yeah, he went into that
corner. The rear wheel just gave a big jiggle, and he ended up on the outside. The other riders were able to go underneath him. He had nowhere to go, and now
he's back running in the number 5 position. Corser is back in second. It's Picat in third. Dave Sadowski in fourth. And again,
the Ducatis are right up there in control of the championship chase. Now we'll see what Colin Edwards
has in mind as he is directly in front of Jamie James, and that's not where he wants to be. And we'll be right back.
Welcome back. Watch the top part of your screen. This happened while we were away. Colin Edwards went way wide. He gave a little wave of his arm to Jamie James, said, come on and
pass me, and James did exactly that. So James moves up 1 notch, and also in that interchange, Dave Sadowski
passed Pascal Picat to move into the number 3 position. So as Scott Russell way out front, we have Troy Corser running in second, Dave Sadowski third, Picat fourth, Jamie James now fifth, as Colin Edwards drops back to the number 6 position. Ramona James, the wife of Jamie James, looks on, and I think she's thinking, Jamie, you need to get on a stick and move up just a little bit. To confirm that, we checked with Terry Vance from Vance & Hines.
He definitely does, Larry. He's 2 down right now, and he needs to be behind Troy no matter what.
And especially this far forward, there's more than a gap there that he needs to fill, so he's got to go by Picat and also Sadowski in order to keep the championship hopes alive.
Any thoughts in your mind as to what is running through his mind at this time?
Well, Larry, they're doing a blistering pace. They're running middle 22s right now, and that's very, very fast this late in the race. So I'm sure
Jamie's thinking about his tires. He's thinking
about his championship. He's just probably thinking about too much. So right now he's probably just concentrating on putting in 5 or 6 good laps because there's only 10 to go.
Back on board with Dave Sadowski in third place. Make that fourth. Pascal Picat goes around the outside, cuts across the front of Dave Sadowski. He'll take that number 3 position away. Did Terry Vance sound concerned to you, Jim?
I'm not sure concerned is exactly the right word, Larry. He's definitely keeping track of things here, but the thing to bear in mind is that there's, we're, what, 2/3 of the way through the race. There's a lot of passing to be done yet. Jamie is a long way from being out of this thing altogether. He's definitely in the hunt.
As a matter of fact, he has tightened the gap between himself and that group
that are running second, third, and fourth. And there James went to the inside. Looked like he had a notion to
pass Sadowski.
He was thinking about it there, Larry.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I have to think that at this point in time, it's time for Jamie to make his move. And
I think that Jamie is thinking along those same lines. Any concern that we had earlier in the ball game is erased from my mind. I think that Jamie James is there and ready to pounce.
Now, if you're Geraldo
Ferracci, on the other hand, I think probably you would be happy to have the race end right now. He has the Ducatis up front
chasing Russell, but his guy is in line to win the championship. Let's check with Geraldo.
Yeah, I know might be what I am. I really like it the way it is. If
but we have another lap to go, so we got to pray that everything stays together and everything stays the way it is.
What he said, and I hasten to point out that he speaks English a lot better than I speak Italian, but what he said is, Colin Edwards' dad chews on his fingernails. What he said was, let's get it over with. My guys are in the place that they need to be in to win this championship. Did I interpret that correctly?
I think that's pretty close, yeah. I think you did a good job with that, Larry.
You don't need to go back to school right now.
Pascal Picat, meanwhile, moves back in front of Troy Corser.
He takes the number 2 position, dropping Corser back to 3rd. Sadowski comes along in 4th, and look, James is right with him. He's on the tail end of that train, and when they made their move, James made his move. Colin Edwards dropping back to the number 6 position earlier. There goes 10 just to watch it. You're right. There goes James.
Unbelievable. That's a great pass. He looks like he's on the move now, Larry. This could be it.
James picked his spot. He shot up to the number 3 position. He is where he needs to be. He now is back in control of the championship.
Exactly right, Larry. So there he goes inside Corser. Jamie's on his way.
Jamie James, what was he doing back there? Here comes Corser right back at him. Now this is what we've been looking for the entire race. A James and Corser shootout. It was supposed to boil down to these two guys, and it is. The laps are running out. They're going head-to-head, hammer and tongue. They're going after the title.
This is it, Larry. This is exactly where Jamie needs to be. He doesn't need to be ahead of Corser now.
This is perfect. If he can stay here, and I'm not sure he's content to stay there,
But if he can stay here, this is all he needs.
Meanwhile, Colin Edwards has closed the gap between him.
Look at this. Colin Edwards is now coming up to help. Are you putting me on? He just said, if James is going, I'm going with him. I'm going to give him a hand. He makes the move, passes Sadowski, moves up one more notch.
James is letting it all hang out.
This is exactly what Colin was thinking, I think, Larry. He's now in a position, we've seen him run second in this race, and that's not out of the question yet, but I think he is moving up to give Jamie a hand now if he can.
James has the upper hand. He needs to finish right behind Troy Corser. That's good enough to win. Corser has to beat James. No two ways about it. We come into this thing just 3 points apart, and here goes James again. James is really putting the pressure on.
Oh, man, I think he's got
Control of that corner there, Larry, but look at things. He's in the lead now. He got him there, coming out of that corner.
In the lead in second place. He's in the lead of that back.
Lead of the curve.
The 3 points are looming large. We'll be right back.
Circle with.
Welcome back to the season finale of AMA Superbike, a dramatic turn of events.
Jamie James has moved to the number 2 position. Colin Edwards, his teammate, is right behind. Now let's see what Terry Vance says.
We've only got a few laps to go, so if they can stay there, we're in good shape. But I'll tell you, Troy's riding a great race, so he might have a little in reserve, too. We'll have to wait and see. Talk for a second about Colin. Is he doing some work out there on Jamie's behalf?
Well, I think so, but he ran wide in the back, and the hairpin coming back up. So I think when he did that and he lost sight of Scott, he might have thought, well, I got to help Jamie.
So that might be what he's doing right now.
Had a quick look at Scott Russell, who is way out front, a huge lead. But the battle for the championship is back in that group of riders that are fighting for the number 2 position. Jamie James, early in the race, had laid off the pace. He was well back of that group, and it looked like he was out of it. Then all of a sudden, he made a dramatic move. Back with him was Colin Edwards, his teammate, and now a pass being made on James by
Larry, James is dropping back. There's definitely something wrong there. He is way back of that group. He's losing touch.
Colin Edwards looked over his shoulder to his left, and I know there has to be disbelief under his helmet that he just says, well, I can do no more. He grabbed a handful of throttle to now go after Corser, but oh, what a shame. There goes the championship.
Well, it's not gone yet, Larry, but let's see what happens.
Maybe he's still running. Maybe things can happen.
Jim, that was not rider error. That was not rider error at all. He just fell right off the pace. He has a mechanical problem with his motorcycle. Ramona James, the lady on the left, Jamie James' wife, knows it. He just did not come around it. And unless something happens now to Troy Corser, that championship is lost.
Yeah, that's a serious blow, obviously, to Jamie, and it's not what we wanted to see. We wanted to see a dogfight, obviously, to the end, and I'm sure that's what Jamie wanted as well.
Absolutely, and it was looking so much like that's exactly what we would see. Meanwhile, Colin Edwards, rider
number 45, has moved into the number 2 position by passing Troy Corser. That puts Corser in 3rd. Dave Sadowski is 4th. Pascal Picat is 5th. And well behind, as Terry Vance shakes his head, comes Jamie James out of the championship chase, and you hit the nail
Right on the head. What we wanted to see was that
championship fight. It might sound like we're sitting here pulling 100% for Jamie James, but that's not what it's about. It's about the two riders going head-to-head to determine the title. That's not going to happen now. Back on the seat with
Dave Sadowski, and Sadowski currently holding down the number 4 position, and
all bets are off, all gloves are off at this point, with Colin Edwards now rocketing
back up to the number 2 position. And I have to wonder, among
those 3 Ducati riders, who is going to do what? It looked earlier in the ball game, earlier in the race,
I should say that both Sadowski and Piquet
were backing off just slightly in order to give the points to Troy Corser. And now, if Corser does not need those points, which one of the Ducati riders will step to the front and make a run out of it for their own behalf or on their own behalf? We'll find out when we come back. Stay with us.
If you've been running for years,
if you've just started running,
even if you've been thinking about running, Runner's World, the world's #1 running magazine, can help you enjoy running and keep you running so you'll look and feel terrific.
Runner's World will help you lose weight fast
and show you the foods that can boost your energy.
You'll learn secrets for building speed and stamina from top runners and their coaches.
Plus, sports medicine breakthroughs and easy stretches that help prevent injury.
You can get into fantastic shape with just 20 minutes of running 3 times a week.
Call now and receive a free issue of Runner's World.
As a special TV bonus, you'll also receive our exclusive guide, 250 everyday health tips for runners, and a personal training log free.
If you're not thrilled with your first issue, simply cancel and owe nothing. If you love Runner's World, you'll receive a full year, 12 issues in all, plus your free tips book and training log for just 3 easy payments of $5.99. That's 49% off the cover price.
Call 1-800-652-2299. 1-800-652-2299.
Welcome back. While we were away, a lot of passing going on. There, you just saw Dave Sadowski pass Troy Corser to move into 3rd. He then went after Colin Edwards to take over the number 2 position. One more pass that was made while we were away. That one involves a pair of Ducati riders as Pascal Piquet got the good line, the drive,
and he passes Troy Corser to take over the number 4 slot. That dropped Corser back to 5th, and that's where we are right now. And I want to tell you that 5th place is not good enough to win this title with Troy Corser. So things are shifting again. If Corser stays in 5th and James holds on to the number 7 position, and that's where he is right now, then he would win. The championship would be his. Now, the rider you just saw being passed is a lap rider. Let's point that out. He is not a factor in this battle as it heads for the wire. So what it amounts to is that Troy Corser needs to move up 1 more position. The point difference is such that if he stays where he is right now, if Jamie James stays where he is right now, then the title would go to Jamie James. You suppose they know that on the racetrack, Jim?
Well, Larry, it's hard to believe with the action as frenetic as it is at the moment that they could be thinking along those lines, but they have passed the pits once, and the Ducati guys have had a chance to show Sadowski and Corser and Piquet what exactly is going on, and that James is back. So, yeah, I think that could be a factor.
Here comes another factor as Colin Edwards goes to the inside of
Sadowski. He takes back the number 2 position. It's Edwards in 2nd. Russell, don't forget, is way out front. It's Dave Sadowski in 3rd. Pascal Piquet is 4th, rider number 21, and in 5th place is Troy Corser. They're heading out for the white flag, signaling 1 lap to go, and there it is. We are just 1 lap away from deciding the 1994 AMA Superbike champion. Again, if it stays the way it is, if Troy Corser does not move up, if he finishes 5th, and if Jamie James holds on to 7th, then Jamie James will be the champion. Troy Corser needs to move up 1 more notch in order to win the championship. And right now, it looks like he's going to have trouble doing that in the early going. The Ducati riders were helping Corser all they could, but when James dropped out, it looked like they figured that that was the end of Jamie James, and now it's every rider for themselves.
Larry, if you've noticed, Corser is actually losing a little bit of touch with these guys. We've had Pascal move past Sadowski now in the 3rd, and that doesn't affect the outcome of the championship at this point, as long as David stays exactly where he is.
I think these riders all have something to prove to the fans and to each other. They have said, hey, we've been playing games. We boiled it down to a final lap, and we are going after it. Here comes Troy Corser now moving up to the rear of Dave Sadowski, and Corser finds finds another gear in that Ducati. He makes the pass. That's where he needs to be.
And there goes the Cutlery inside of Colin Edwards.
What do they have? A last lap afterburner on Ducatis that lets them do that? Here comes the winner. He has been out front all day long by a mile. The Georgia native, the world champion Superbiker, Scott Russell, takes the win. But the crowd is watching this group. Here they come. It's going to be Pascal Picat in second, and it's Edwards in third. Troy Corser finishes fourth. That will give him the title as Dave Sadowski comes home in fifth. What a dramatic turn of events. Again, we've said that 5 or 6 times today. Mike Smith finished in the number 6 position, and James finished 7th. That will give the title one more time to Troy Corser. Now, Jim, this is bad. One corner from the end of the race, 2 riders collided on the course with Scott Doolan and Brad Hazen. Now, at this point, no information regarding their condition. Hard to imagine that they're going to get up and walk away from this. But, Jim, we've seen riders walk away from crashes like this before. We can only hope that maybe we'll see it here again today. We'll try to get an update before we leave the air. Scott Russell basking in the cheers of the hometown crowd. Here are the results. Jim, what a race.
That's all we can say. It's hard to believe Jamie would still be a factor at the end of the race after the mechanical problems he had, but he was.
At the Honda factory in Ohio, every Accord is given a bath before it's painted. A zinc phosphate bath. It helps fight rust and corrosion over the life of the car. Now, why do we go to such lengths? That's why.
Splitfire earned a United States patent. Splitfire doesn't look like any other spark plug. And the patented Splitfire doesn't work like any other spark plug.
5 extra horsepower by merely installing these plugs. Quicker in the quarter mile. A 4.8% gain in mileage.
There's nothing like a Splitfire. You'll get more power and more mileage, or your money back. Get the guaranteed Splitfire advantage at leading automotive stores from coast to coast.
Dunlop, the winner's tire.
The people on Dunlop are declared the tire the best on the world.
When it comes to Dunlop and tire quality, there's none better.
Because Dunlop succeeds where others fail.
It's simple. Dunlop tires are the best. They just took us to a world championship.
Dunlop tires, simply the best for your bike.
Cycle World is brought to you by Honda Motorcycles, the leader in on and off-road fun. Honda, come ride with us. By your local Yamaha dealer who invites you to see their exciting line of motorcycles, ATVs, and snowmobiles. By Kawasaki. Kawasaki, let the good times roll. By Dunlop, simply the best for your bike. And by Cycle World, your leading motorcycle magazine. Welcome back to Road Atlanta. Scott Russell won the race. Troy Corser won the title. Here's Pascal Picat, who finished second today.
When I saw Jimmy went by me and Troy, so I said, now I have to go and try to catch Jimmy and put some, be ahead of Jimmy. And all of a sudden I saw Jimmy's bike broke or something happened. So after that, I knew now I was able to finish ahead of Troy. So that's what I did.
Check this. Colin Edwards waving his teammate Jamie James past. Now, Colin wanted to win here today, but it was apparent early in the race he would not be able to stay up with Russell. So the youngster did everything that he could to help James win the title, but in the end, it was not enough.
It's obvious I couldn't keep up with Scott with the way things were. You know, and knowing that I couldn't catch him, I just went back and tried to help Jamie as much as I could, and got everybody behind him, let him go in front of me, and just hoping he was going to open up a gap. They were all knocking on my door pretty hard, and then when Jamie went out, you know, I totally had my head out of it. You know, that's no excuse, but it's really hard to regain your concentration once you're slowing up your pace and try to get back on it. But you know, that's racing, and I tried to help Jamie win the championship, but it just wasn't the day to do it.
It was, though, a day to do it for Georgia native Scott Russell. You know, he captured the opening round of Superbike competition way back in March at Daytona, then went to Europe to defend his World Championship Superbike crown. Came back to the States to ride this one at his home track in the season finale. Early laps, he played it smart, stayed away from trouble. Then, when the time was right,
He flat ran and hid from the competition.
he carries the #1 plate in the World Series, and he was #1 on this day in Road Atlanta.
Well, you know, I knew I didn't want to race with him too much. And luckily, I was able to clear off early on, and when the tires started to go off, I just kind of cruised around, and I had a good lead, so I was all right. Everything's good. Who won the championship?
Troy Corser did, Scott, and a well-deserved championship it was. En route to the title, the Australian Superbike champion from 1993 captured 3 checkered flags. All in all, he was the outstanding rider of the season. And Jim, as we watch Corser enjoy his victory lap, have to wonder about Jamie James. He came so close only to lose the title in the closing laps. Appeared that he had it in the bag, then the mechanical problem.
Really and truthfully, I still feel good. I mean, our team has done an excellent job all year, and the Yamahas have performed flawlessly. And, you know, just the one time that we had a slight mechanical failure of some kind. It could have been even a spark plug wire, who knows, but it was something simple. And you know, when you go all year and you've had good luck with your equipment and stuff, you can't complain. We were where we needed to be when it checked out on us, so I feel good about it. And my hat's off to Troy, and you know, he's had a deserving win. You know, I love it here in Atlanta. I have a lot of fans here to cheer me on, and I was fixing to really try to let it set sail. Colin had kind of helped me out, and he had held the pace up a little bit, and then when I caught up, I had just really got comfortable and was ready to go when I joined the pack. And you know, it's just the way it goes. My guys have worked real hard for me all year, and I want to thank the Yamaha people and all my mechanics. And, you know, I'm going to go back to Louisiana and have a party.
Jim, make a list of Class acts, and I guarantee that one will be on top. Here's another Class guy. Let's take a look at the 1994 Superbike champ, Australian Troy Corser. Came to the States to fill the shoes of the departing champ, Doug Poland. He was on a strange bike riding tracks he had never seen before. No kangaroos or billabongs to keep him company, so Corser collected checkered flags and the title.
It was a long season. It was looking really great at the start. It was really consistent. Ferracci, Ray, Phil, all of the guys in the Ferracci Ducati team were excellent. The Ducati ran well all year, and unfortunately we had a DNF at Mid-Ohio, and that was just a motor DNF, and we weren't too sure if that was going to be bad luck to start or good luck all over again. But then we had another one, and this weekend I said to Geraldo, we just got to concentrate, and I know I can be up there as long as I can get some good track time. And then I had that crash on Friday, and I thought, well, here comes the bad luck again. But the Ducati worked fine, excellent. Geraldo, all of them done a great job on the bike, and it was excellent.
Well, as Troy Corser prepares to celebrate his championship, out on the track, they are still attending to the pair of riders that crashed on the last lap. Now, one of our cameras caught the tail end of the crash as the rider slid by and into the hay bales and tires that surround the track. And we have no word on the condition of Scott Doohan or Brad Hazen. They were the 2 riders involved at this time. We'll update you next week on Cycle World. Hopefully the trip to the hospital that obviously they will be making will be for naught. They'll get up and walk out, and they'll be okay. Here's the victory celebration as the 1994 Superbike season comes to a close. Jim, enjoyed your company and keen insight the past several weeks. It's been a real pleasure. Final thoughts as we check the Road Atlanta results and lock the door?
Lots of final thoughts here, Larry. I guess the first thing I want to do is just say thanks. It's been a great opportunity. I really enjoyed working with you and all the people at Prime. And I guess to get on to the racing and more specifically, I think what we've seen this year is a new age of Superbike racing in the U.S. 6 factory teams, 14 factory riders. Just a wonderful title chase. Came right down to the final minute of the final race, and between 2 nicer guys, you couldn't ask to see a better title chase. So to sum it up, absolutely, Larry, just the best Superbike racing I've ever seen in America on a year-long basis. Absolutely the best.
Thank you, Jim. It's been a great year of racing. Now, before we leave you today, let's take a look at what's happening in the world of motorcycle racing. This weekend, the stars of the World Superbike Series head for Donington Park in England. The AMA Grand National Dirt Track stars will race under the lights in Sacramento Saturday night. That's round 20 of 22. And don't forget to get the results of these races and other motorcycle race action. Call the AMA's race result hotline, 1-900-884-CYCLE. That's 1-900-884-CYCLE. Will that wrap?